Morning, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. We're at 2565 Southwest 211th Court here in Aloha. We are located just to the left of the front doorway. That's as you face the house from the street. That's how I describe everything. We're going to check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water is shut off to the house. I'm limited on the amount of water I can put down this thing. I do have some. And I just realized here, this is actually a faux 4-inch clean out. The access is merely 4-inch. It necks down to 3-inch pipe, it looks like, as you drop down into here. Put a reducer on it. So, anyway, checking the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. We are zeroed out, and off we go. I'm going to get down the line here a little ways, and we'll dump some water down the pipe. A little bit of grease buildup in the flow line there. Nothing too crazy thus far. However, once I see a continuous layer of it throughout the entire line, or most of it, is where I generally recommend you start jetting. It's one thing when it's kind of here and there. This is pretty consistent so far. And that's just grease. Once grease buildup is there, it remains there. It doesn't break down. It just becomes stickier and stickier as time goes on. Alright, transitioning here to 4-inch pipe. You may see another transition here in just a second. Yep, there it is. There's a test tee at the top of the pipe, so I gave that away. Now we're into concrete. That also looks like it made a diameter change there. So my guess is 6-inch. Although I know they do have that. The only reason I say my guess is 6 inches, normally it's a little more pronounced. I do believe you will get some kind of oddity sizes sometimes, like 5-inch pipe, but beautiful. There it is. Well, you should see some water going past the camera here in just a second. That was a extremely straight, smooth going scope there. Usually you can start getting to a 100-foot mark like this on a just about bone dry line. Does not always go that smoothly. There we go. Alright, we'll let that drain off here for just a minute. And so far, I mean, other than some grease buildup in the line looks very good thus far. We'll go over some stuff I saw there in the concrete pipe as we come back in. There was a little bit of substance protruding from some of the joints there, which we'll take a look at. It can sometimes be dirt. It can also be potentially pipe grout. So we'll take a look at that. The thing I like about what I'm looking at, though, either way, is I'm not seeing any settling associated with it. If it, for instance, were to be dirt, for example, I get a lot more concerned about pipe joints like that when we see progressive settling taking place, even if it's relatively subtle. But right now, I'm not even certain that's what it is. It may not be dirt at all. It could easily be excess pipe grout that squeezed through the joint. So, and you know, it's one of those things I will indeed, talk about and notate, but I generally don't jump to the scenario of recommending updates until we start seeing some kind of action associated with it. Where you get joints that are starting to drop and settle because of hydro erosion. Until we get to that point, it's kind of an annoyance that you may see dirt there, if that's even what it is. But it has zero bearing on functionality, not unless it actually results in something. So just keep that in mind. From a technical standpoint, if some level of dirt is coming to the joint, you have a joint there that is to some extent exposed to the ground. From a functional standpoint, whatever we have going on there is not affecting anything right now. Alright, located the camera head successfully. Line terminates out on Southwest 211th. Line is a pretty darn straight shot. When I was locating that out in the street there, the line hits the main about where the road starts to open up into the cul-de-sac. Right at that spot there where it starts to widen. The line looks, when I turn around and look back at the house, the line looks like it crosses a curb very near where the mailboxes are. can't remember off the top of my head, is that the line does, really any turns at all at the start of the line. It's, pretty subtle. Anyway, this is what I was referring to a moment ago. You've got a little bit of substance protruding from these joints here. It could be dirt. It could be grout. My camera doesn't bump up against it, so I can't go plowing through it there to really verify what it is necessarily. But generally speaking, that's one of those things, it is, the joints are, from a technical standpoint, potentially compromised. I don't know if that's even, again, it's hard to say with certainty if it's dirt or not. You've got a little bit of substance on the sidewalls there it looks somewhat similar to what we're seeing there. So, worst case scenario, on something like this, what I would recommend if you were to do any updating on it would be doing something like an epoxy liner. That's just simply, it's a trenchless repair system, generally speaking. As this line sits, though, with how nicely it flows, to go and rip a road apart over what you have right here would be complete nonsense. It's just total overkill for what you're dealing with. Anyway, without being able to verify that's what it is. I also don't have any secondary signs at those joints, to help confirm that would even be dirt. Again, I look for, pipe joints settling or separating to where hydro erosion looks like it's taken place. If you get a joint that sucks enough dirt through it, it can erode the support out from underneath the sewer line, and that generally will start causing progressive settling. You'll start to see the joints become a little bit offset, and or you'll get a really, at least in the beginning, a small belly that might start just before the joint. I don't have earthworms crawling around the sewer line, anything else that indicates to me that is what's going on there. So, as it sits right now, you may potentially have some amount of dirt coming through, but none of it is meaningful as it sits right now as it relates to functionality and flow. Best way to help confirm what that is there, if you're really wanting to look into it, if you do any hydrojetting on the sewer line, if you were to be cleaning this to clean the grease out, if you run that jetter out there, and ideally you do it in the conjunction with a camera, you put the camera right behind the jet, and you just barely run that jet past it. You try and do kind of a gentle run past it, so you're not bearing down that location, because jetters are powerful enough that they could actually bust loose, especially some 50, 60-year-old piece of pipe grout that's sticking off the joint. So you want to try and do it in a manner that helps you to confirm that's what it is. So there are ways of doing that. If you have the right people out that know how to do that, have me back out with one of my drain cleaning guys, and we might be able to help verify that. But, being that there's nothing meaningful taking place there, it's one of those things that I don't think it's in my opinion, worth going to the ends of the earth over as it sits right now. What I generally recommend most people do in this circumstance, where there's somewhat questionable circumstances, is rescope periodically. Just know that at some point down the road, you may get to the point of having to do something like an epoxy liner, which is how you want to do this thing, by the way. And really quick here, just to help, I'm going to push back out real fast here to the transition joint, just to locate and see where that's at. That just helps to give you a little bit better picture into the future. What you want to do is rescope periodically. And if we start to see any signs those joints are any movements taking place, that's when you want to get on the epoxy liner thing, because what that allows you to do is do this trenchlessly or semi-trenchlessly. In fact, you'd have to consult a repair company. You may very well be able to use a test tee like you have right here. All right, even better here. This, well, you could either use the test tee or potentially put in a different clean out, but that's essentially what a test tee is a clean out that gets capped off after the line is passed off and certified when it's first installed. So where I'm at right now, you've got kind of the planter area where there's like a lace leaf maple or some kind of little maple tree near the sidewalk area. We're in the dirt right now. So the worst case scenario here, if you get down the road or see this line or hear long enough to actually see the line get updated, you can do this all as simply as potentially digging a hole as deep as about 4 foot 10 inches. That's down to the camera head. A lot of times those test tees, just like a clean out is stubbed up much closer to the surface. So that's kind of worst case scenario. If for some reason that test tee were to be super short, and or you had to dig down and add a clean out in, you'd potentially have to dig about a 5 foot deep hole there. put in an access point and or utilize what's currently there, which is a test T connection, which I believe will operate and function just like a clean out. And from that point forward, everything else out there on the road could be epoxy lined trenchlessly. In this part of town, ideally that's how you do this kind of stuff, because the city out here, unless something has changed recently, does not take responsibility for the individual laterals coming off each home. They maintain the main lateral in the street, but not the lines coming from the home. Not at the street curb or anything of the sort. Unlike Multnomah County, for instance. So, considering what you have there is a very expensive repair to do by trench. Not that it's cheap to do liners either, but in a case like this, it saves a humongous amount of money not digging up a road. So, as we sit here today, we have good flow all the way to the main lateral connection. There is grease buildup in the line, which I do recommend cleaning. You can see how gunked my rag is here. That's not the best picture in the world, but there's a reasonable amount of grease coming out of my camera right now. I would recommend jetting to clean the line out. That helps to improve flow, makes the line less prone to blocking. You don't have all that sticky grease in there that grabs stuff. But as it sits right now, personally, I've been doing this 13 years. I've cambered almost 25,000 sewer lines. I've been a part of a lot of sewers, repairs, and all that good stuff. The line right now, even if that is dirt coming through there, in my opinion, it is not at a point where it is ready for update. It's something I can recommend from a hyper-technical standpoint, potentially, if you could confirm it's even dirt. Until I start seeing signs at the line that it's actually affecting the line structurally, where the line is settling or something of that sort, updating that right now, you will not be changing the functionality of the line in any way, shape, matter, or form. So, dirt or not, I would recommend rescoping. In these cases out here, whether this line is brand new or 50 years old, I always recommend you rescope these when they have concrete pipe in them, about every year or two. That's just to monitor the sewer line, to watch for any progressive settling, which is the end result fate of pretty much all concrete pipe out there. That allows you to pick and choose the right time to do something like an epoxy liner, save a whole bunch of money. As we sit here today, line functions very nice even with the grease in there, but you'll improve the functionality of the line and flow after the line is cleaned out. Mostly that helps to mitigate blockages from occurring due to the grease. And where this grease buildup is at right now, it's not the kind that will just cause blockages on its own. It's the kind of stuff that will help contribute to a blockage if someone's already flushing stuff down there that's pretty darn close to blocking on its own anyway. So, not making a night and day difference to functionality, but it's a meaningful thing to do when you have kids in the house, a bunch of little ones that are still, wadding their toilet paper up like a softball, scenarios like that. So, anyway, sewer line is functioning at this time.